Okay, think about this for a second. What's like the number one way attackers actually get in? The biggest digital threat.
Yeah, it's probably not what most people imagine, like some super complex movie hacking scene.
Right. Forget the scrolling green code. The reality, according to some pretty serious reports, is actually kind of mundane. It's passwords.
That's it. Compromised credentials, they're the main key, the main way attackers succeed time and time again.
Yeah, both the big IBM costs of a data breach report and the X-Force Threat Intelligence Index, they basically scream the same thing.
It's consistent across the board.
So our mission today, for this deep dive, we want to really break down how these passwords get stolen. How does it actually happen?
And crucially, what you can actually do about it. Equip the good guys,
Yeah,
basically.
we're going to walk through 5 common ways attackers pull this off. Guessing, harvesting, cracking, spraying, and stuffing. Ready to really get into it?
Absolutely. It's fascinating, isn't it?
Hmm.
Even with all the fancy security tech we have now, these fundamental ways of getting passwords, they still work really well.
Scary.
Well, yeah. But understanding why they work, looking at the specifics of each method, that's how we figure out how to defend better.
Okay, let's kick things off with the one that sounds, I don't know, almost too simple. Guessing. Can they really just throw darts at the board and hit your password?
Well, purely random guessing. Not very likely to succeed on its own, but informed guessing, that's a different story.
Informed, what do you mean? Like they know something about you?
Exactly. They might look at your public info, maybe social media, or sometimes it's simpler. People still write passwords down on sticky notes, that whole PC sunflower thing.
Oh man, the sticky note password, you'd hope we're past that.
You would hope, but it still happens. And then there are the huge lists of passwords from old data breaches.
Right, those massive leaks you hear about.
Yeah, they're all over the place online. So attackers aren't always guessing blind. They might use those lists to make much, much better guesses. It's like, getting a cheat sheet.
Makes sense. It gives them a starting point. So, okay, they have a guess, maybe from one of those lists. What then? They just try logging in?
Pretty much, they try to log in. Now, most systems have a basic defense against this simple guessing, right? The 3 strikes and you're out idea.
Yeah, you get locked out after too many wrong tries.
Exactly. A few failed attempts and boom, temporary lockout. It stops those really basic, automated, brute force attempts.
Okay, so that's a hurdle. So, fair to say that just guessing without any inside info or those leaked lists isn't super efficient for an attacker.
Generally, no. It's slow, noisy, and likely gets them locked out pretty quick, unless the guess is really, really good for some reason.
Gotcha. Okay, so guessing needs a bit of help usually. Let's move on to harvesting. Now, this sounds different. It implies they aren't guessing anymore. They somehow know the password already.
Precisely. Harvesting means the attacker gets your password directly, often without you realizing it at the time.
How?
Well, one really common way is malware, specifically keyloggers.
Ugh, keyloggers.
Yeah. This nasty software gets onto your computer, maybe through a bad download or a dodgy link, and it just records everything you type. Everything.
Including usernames and passwords.
Including usernames and passwords. Then it sends that info back to the attacker, maybe right away, maybe later. That's why keeping your system clean,
Yeah.
Running good security software is so vital.
That's creepy. Just silently recording everything. What else falls under harvesting?
Phishing attacks. Super common, extremely effective still.
The fake emails and websites.
Exactly. You get an email, maybe a text message, looks totally legit. From your bank, maybe, or a social site. Says there's a problem. Click here to log in.
And the link goes to a fake site that looks real.
Spot on. You enter your username, your password, thinking you're logging into the real thing, but nope. You just handed your credentials straight to the attacker. We've all seen those urgent security alert emails.
Right.
Classic phishing bait.
Yeah, trying to panic you into clicking. So harvesting is more about trickery, deception, or malicious software, less about brute force.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, cracking. When I hear cracking, I think, complex algorithms breaking encryption. Is that right?
That's the common image, yeah.
With password cracking, the attacker usually starts with a database of stored passwords. They've gotten these maybe from hacking into a system, a website breach, something like that.
Okay, they stole the password file.
Right. But
Yeah.
those passwords usually aren't stored as plain text. That would be terrible security. They're stored as hashes.
Hashes. Okay, explain hashing for us, in simple terms.
Think of it like putting ingredients into a blender. You put in your password, the ingredients. The hashing algorithm is the blender. And out comes this jumbled up string of characters, the hash. It's a smoothie, and the key thing is, it's designed to be a one-way process. You can easily make the smoothie from the ingredients, but you can't really truly reverse it and get the original separate ingredients back perfectly from the smoothie.
Ah, okay. So you can hash a password easily, but you can't unhash it to get the original password back.
Exactly. It's computationally very, very hard, basically infeasible for good hashing algorithms. So the attackers steal this database of hashes, but they can't just read the passwords.
So they have this scrambled data. How do they crack it then? How do they find the original passwords?
Right, here's the clever part. They don't try to reverse the hashing, the unblend, the smoothie, if you will. Instead, they use a kind of backdoor method. They start guessing passwords.
Guessing again.
Well, yes, but systematic guessing. They use lists of common passwords, password 123, QWERTY, things like that. They use dictionary words. Or they might try brute forcing simple combinations. Short stuff, predictable patterns.
Okay, so they guess a potential real password. Then what?
Then they take their guessed password, like password 123, and they run it through the exact same hashing algorithm, the same blender settings that the original system used.
Ah, so they create their own hash for their guess.
Precisely. And then they compare the hash they just created with all the hashes in the stolen database.
And if they find a match?
If they find a match, bingo. They know their guess. A password 123 must have been the original password that created that specific hash in the database. They found the password without ever breaking the encryption itself. It's like trying keys in a lock until one clicks.
That's smart. Sneaky, but smart. They're matching the results, not reversing the process.
Exactly. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Let's talk about password spraying.
Spraying. Okay, the name kind of implies scattering something around, hoping it hits.
That's a pretty good analogy, yeah. With spraying, the attacker takes one password, often a common one, maybe one they found from a breach list.
Okay, just one password.
Just one. But instead of trying it over and over against your account, which would get them locked out,
Right, the three strikes rule.
they try that single password against many different user accounts on the same system. Account 1 gets one try, account 2 gets one try, account 3, and so on.
Oh, I see. So they're not targeting me specifically. They're just hoping someone on that system use that common password.
Exactly. Their goal is just to get any foothold, any valid account on that system. And the reason this works is, well, password reuse. People use the same weak passwords everywhere.
Which is a huge problem.
It's the biggest enabler for this kind of attack, really.
And the big advantage for the attacker is avoiding the lockout, right? Because it's only one failed attempt per account.
Precisely. One failed login on any given account.
Yeah.
That could just look like a user typo. It doesn't raise immediate alarms.
Sneaky. It flies under the radar.
Yeah, it's often called a low and slow attack. It can be harder for basic monitoring to catch.
Okay, low and slow. That's spraying. Now, the last one on our list was stuffing. Is that related?
Very related. Credential stuffing is like a variation of spraying, but the target is different.
Oh.
Instead of one password across many accounts on one system, credential stuffing takes a known username and password pair again, usually from a breach list.
Okay, a specific username and password.
Right, a known compromised credential. And they try that same credential across many different systems, System 1, System 2, System 3.
Ah, so trying your leaked Facebook password on your bank, your email, your shopping sites.
Exactly that. They're banking on the same thing, password reuse. They hope that the password that got leaked from, say, Service A is the same one you used on Service B, C, and D.
And that sounds even harder to detect than spraying.
It absolutely is.
Okay.
Because the login attempts are spread out across completely different websites, different companies, different platforms.
Each with its own security team, its own logs.
Exactly. Security monitoring is often siloed. It's hard to connect the dots and see that one person's credentials are being tried everywhere simultaneously. It really highlights how dangerous reusing passwords is.
Wow. Okay, so we've got guessing, harvesting, cracking, spraying, stuffing. That's quite the toolkit attackers have. Paints a pretty stark picture.
It does. But the good news is, understanding these methods is the first step to defending against them.
Right. So what can we, the listeners, the good guys, actually do? Let's talk prevention.
Okay, prevention first. In cybersecurity, we often think in terms of prevention, detection, and response. For prevention, the absolute foundation is password strength and uniqueness.
Strong passwords. We hear that all the time. What does it really mean? Complex characters. Length.
Both help, but honestly, length is probably more important than complexity these days. A longer password, or even better, a passphrase, is much harder to crack or guess. Think length is strength.
Length is strength. Got it.
Also, try not to use passwords that are known to be weak or have appeared in previous breaches. There are tools online where you can check that. And the absolute golden rule: don't reuse passwords across different sites.
That's the killer. Password reuse makes spraying and stuffing possible.
It really does. It's probably the single biggest thing users do that makes attackers' lives easier.
But remembering dozens of long, unique passwords, that's tough, right? Easier said than done.
Absolutely. And that's exactly why password managers or password vaults are so important. They're essential tools now, I'd argue.
How do they help, specifically?
Well, they can generate really strong, really long, unique passwords for every single site you use, and they store them securely. You only need to remember one strong master password to unlock the vault.
So it takes the burden off you remembering everything.
Exactly. It tackles the reuse problem head-on and drastically shrinks your attack surface.
Makes sense. Password managers? What else on the prevention side?
Multi-factor authentication, MFA. This is huge.
Two-factor sometimes called?
Yeah, multi-factor, two-factor. The idea is to add another layer beyond just something you know, your password. It adds something you have, like a code sent to your phone or from an authenticator app, or something you are, like a fingerprint or face scan.
So even if they steal your password somehow?
They still can't get in without that second factor. It's a really effective barrier against most credential theft attacks. Turn it on wherever you can.
Good advice. What about newer things? I keep hearing about passkeys.
Passkeys.
Yes.
So that's sort of the next evolution, aiming to get rid of passwords entirely.
No more passwords. Sounds good to me.
It's based on stronger cryptography, public key crypto basically,
Yeah.
more secure, often easier to use once set up. If a service you use offers passkeys, definitely look into enabling them. It's the direction things are heading.
Okay, passkeys. Anything else for prevention?
From the system side, things like rate limiting are important. That's basically monitoring how many login attempts are coming from one place in a certain time.
To stop those brute force guessing attacks we talked about.
Exactly. Limit the attempts, block suspicious sources automatically. It helps establish what normal login traffic looks like so you can spot unusual bursts.
Okay, so strong, unique passwords, use a manager, enable MFA, look into passkeys, and systems should use rate limiting. That's a solid prevention list. But, what if something still gets through? How do we detect an attack, especially those sneaky spraying or stuffing ones?
Detection can be tricky, especially for the low and slow stuff. But there are indicators. You might look for, say, an increase in the number of failed logins over time across your system.
Like more failures than usual.
Yeah, although clever attackers might spread their attempts out to try and blend in. But a sudden spike is definitely worth investigating.
What else?
A much stronger indicator, especially for password spraying, is seeing multiple login failures coming from the same IP address or source, but trying to access different user accounts on your system.
Ah, right. One source trying account A, then account B, then account C, all failing with maybe the same password guess.
Exactly. That pattern screams password spraying. That's not normal user behavior.
Makes sense. What about detecting stuffing, the cross-site attacks? You said that was harder.
It is harder from a single system's perspective, because the attempts are scattered across the internet. However, on any one system being targeted, you might still see a high volume of failed logins using known, common breached passwords. That could be a clue.
So looking for known bad passwords being tried.
Yeah. And larger organizations might have threat intelligence feeds or ways to correlate login attempts across different services they run, which can help spot stuffing, but it's definitely more challenging.
Okay, harder to get the big picture on stuffing. So let's say we've detected something. We see that spraying pattern or a suspicious spike. What's the response? What do we do?
Right, response. First, if you identify specific IP addresses sending tons of failed logins, block them. Cut off the source.
Okay, block the bad IPs.
Then, if you suspect a spraying attack was successful, meaning you saw lots of failures across accounts, and then suddenly one succeeds from that same source, that successful account is almost certainly compromised.
So investigate that specific successful login.
Absolutely. That account needs immediate attention. You'd want to temporarily disable it, investigate what the attacker did, if anything.
And for any account you confirm is compromised.
Lock it out immediately. Force a password, reset a strong, unique one this time, hopefully, to kick the attacker out and prevent them from getting back in or doing more damage.
Makes sense. Block, investigate, disable, reset, control the damage.
That's the idea, containment and remediation.
Okay, so bringing this all together, it's clear Attackers have, well, a lot of ways to try and get our passwords. Guessing, harvesting through phishing or malware, cracking hashes, spraying common passwords across accounts, stuffing credentials across
It's
sites.
a diverse landscape of threats.
But understanding these methods, actually knowing how they work, that feels like the critical first step, doesn't it?
It really is. You can't defend against something if you don't understand how it operates.
And then taking those preventative steps we talked about, making sure your passwords are long, strong, unique.
Using a password manager makes that feasible.
Right. Turning on MFA wherever possible, looking into passkeys.
Those are the big ones. They dramatically reduce your risk.
And on the detection and response side, being alert to those weird login patterns, especially the spraying indicators, and having a plan to block, disable, and reset if needed.
Exactly. It's about building layers of defense.
So maybe here's a final thought for everyone listening. Just take a moment. Think about all the accounts you have online. Considering these attack methods, which one or two might feel the most vulnerable right now?
Maybe an old account you haven't touched in years, or one where you know you reused a password.
Yeah. And what's just one thing, one concrete step you could take maybe even today to make that account more secure? Maybe it's enabling MFA, maybe it's changing the password, using a manager.
Just one small step can make a difference.
Definitely something to think about. Give that some thought, and we'll be back with another deep dive next time.